Yesterday, I was on the register. There is this couple, particularly the husband, who gives me the weirdest vibe in the world. Now, there is something going on with his wife to where she requires his assistance for everything. And I'm not going to get into the details of what I have observed because I don't want to speculate on her specifically, especially how she's 100% innocent in what I'm getting ready to share. But the husband, particularly, he has always given me the weirdest vibe since the first time that I recall in recent memory seeing him. Well, 2 weekends ago, some other customer, it was the customer who I was assisting before they went through my line, and then my current customer recognized him, greeted him, and they started chatting and talking so much that the couple with the weird guy in it, of course, he was paying cash. I had told him the total. Let's say I said the total was 150. Well, he gave me 120. And then I say, your total's 150. And then he gave me another 20. And then I'm like, do you have another 10? He goes, you know what? I'll just keep giving you money and tell me when it's enough. I literally just said how much more I needed. You're just not listening. So he's that kind of guy. It's the kind of guy who's like so ready to listen to himself talk, I think, more than anything. And for you to do that listening as well, but not really engage, that when you say something to try to get a word in, that disruption, the flow of your thoughts, something that he can't see coming or control, causes him to malfunction. I swear that sounds silly, it sounds stupid, but hopefully as I continue, I will be able to flesh that out more. That, for me, corroborated how I always got the weirdest vibe from him. It's that kind of vibe of, you're not as good at socializing as you think you are. During that conversation that he was having with my customer, I picked up on two things. He was saying, well, we spent some time in blah, 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 whatever he said, because I don't listen to that shit. I'm not part of the conversation. And all I heard was that my son lives out there. We visited him for however long it was. And then my daughter is either living in or moving to, and therefore they were out there as well and they just got back. Conversations like that, I'm always finding them cringy because I don't feel compelled to tell everybody the details of what people around me are doing, no matter how directly related to me they are. It's a matter of, I share that with people who are relevant. I wouldn't just share it with someone I just casually know. And the way I know that this guy just kind of casually just knew this other guy, an acquaintance kind of thing, is the way they greeted each other. It was, you had to give yourself this intro of who you are, how you met, before it could proceed. But anyway, that doesn't really matter. I'm just letting you know where I come from with details like that. There's a lot of things I don't tell you guys on the channel, despite how much talking I do. Little things like that, little details like that, such as achievements and where people are at and things like that. I don't really discuss that because I'm not a part of it. Why would I discuss it? So there's that. And when someone talks about those things, the parent who is fixated on children's achievements always give me the weirdest vibe. Even if you already come from a well-off background, when your child still accomplishes something and you blow it out of proportion, it just makes me feel like you're just looking for that prestige, I guess. Like, look at what my children achieve. Evidently, I done good if they're on their way to achieving something. Sometimes I feel like parents need this validation of, you're doing great, honey. To me, again, that is the weirdest thing in the world. And maybe one day I will share with you guys the specific event in my life, which wasn't even a year ago, that led me to arrive at that conclusion. And it would be so great if I could tell the story exactly as it went down. But I need to figure out a way to express it without being too detailed about certain things. And that's the reason I haven't been able to share that. All I know is that for some reason, parents just cannot be content with just letting their children be, but instead you feel like you gotta voice everywhere that you go that my child is getting married, that my child just graduated from this and that and the other. Like, Tell that to a handful of people, the people who matter, not just randomers. I'm a randomer. I don't need to hear it. I don't care about hearing it. Something that I discovered is that someone who has lived in France for a long time, I heard that I would probably enjoy being a cashier out there a whole lot more, because the way that I actually behave as a cashier is totally how she experienced it in France, which is here in the States, you're like, hey, how's it going? So were you able to find everything? And what are your plans for today? Did you have a good day yesterday? Did you have a good Christmas, even though it's fucking melting and cooking out here? Things like that, just the continuous assault of questions, because the attempt is to create some kind of fake connection with your customers, so that makes them more likely to associate the place, the business, as pleasurable, and therefore you're likely to spend more. The way I personally see it as a consumer is I don't need a lot of entertainment. In fact, I don't need any entertainment at all, because I just want to be there, go in and go out. But when you start interacting with me, trying to befriend me too much, to me that just comes off as disingenuous, because there is really nothing that is uniting us at the moment. I'm taking the time to flesh all that out and explain to you so that you can understand the lead up to the situation, like understand me as a person doing my job at that moment in time, running into this kind of character, this type of personality that doesn't go well with me. This little intro, I did that on purpose. And the reason I threw the story of me hearing about how cashiers in France literally go, hello, how are you? Good. And then they complete your order, tell you the total, I guess, you pay, and thank you, have a good one. That's literally how I am, and I see that that is acceptable in other places. So I'm thinking, yeah, that feels like the right thing to do. It's not ideal for you to drain yourself trying to be an entertainer. And again, when you come off as an entertainer, nothing about it feels genuine. It is okay to use your power to socialize during special situations. Like, there have been customers who have shared with me that they're particularly sad on that day because a week ago their spouse just passed away. You know, something like that, I will stop, take the time to actually interact with them from a place of sympathy. But it's not like I'm going to start asking all these insane questions. Like, this is a person who's mourning. Show them support, show them appreciation, affection to whatever extent is adequate, and just let it go. That's the kind of person I am. Even though I express myself as usually irritated by certain customer interactions, I want you to understand that I do deploy my power when it's appropriate, but it's not a power that I'm going to deploy every day. I think that a lot of people get drained and overwhelmed by this job because you want to do that every day, and it's just not realistic to. And the very day that you deploy that, it has meaning and impact. That's the point. I like to evaluate my situations and my interactions. And then this right here, I want to say this is where my intuition lives, and this is where my intuition works. When this activates, I know that management up here needs to perform certain maneuvers, execute certain things. I do it, and that's it. But when you just show up at a place and you're just there and you're just trying to like comply with some kind of script, it just doesn't work. And that's why I would rather look NPC as a cashier, but then boom, when you least expect it, I manifest myself and my powers. Then you see it every day, you expect it every day. That is the unrealistic part. So let me go back to this guy, now that you understand where I'm coming from in the background, like in the back of my mind. 3 days ago, I saw this couple again, and I'm usually the very first person to get there. You have no choice but to see me if you come in at a certain time, because I'm usually by myself on a register on the sales floor for the first 2 or 3 hours in the morning. You have no choice but to see me. It is very, very improbable that you'll find me anywhere at nighttime. So there's that. No matter what happens, If your pattern is that you're a morning person, I'm more than likely going to be the person you see. There were some evening customers who I have seen when I go shopping in the evening that I'm like, oh snap, I totally remember you, but I haven't seen them in years. You gotta understand that little bit as well. Yesterday, they arrive at my register, and then I'm putting away baskets, and the guy starts like hollering at me from a distance, and I'm honestly not listening because I like to be addressed when I'm right in front of you, when I'm actually at my station. I don't like it when you yell at me like you're someone selling produce on the streets. You're not a street vendor. You're in an edifice. Comport yourself. So I come over and I start my usual thing. I'm like, hello, how's it going? And then he doesn't even say hi to me or anything. He just goes like, do you ever get a day off? I see you every day. I don't reply to that because I think that it's a dumb way to start a conversation. I really think it is. You guys know that I hate small talk, and I understand that that's just the way people speak and that's just the way they know how to start conversations. But again, I'm not your friend. I'm here to do a job. When you are a complete, absolute stranger, I expect from you respect. And the kind of respect that I expect is because I am a stranger. I expect formality from you. I don't care if I'm a janitor. I don't care if I'm a mechanic. I don't care if I'm a little ass cashier. You don't know me. You have to be formal. Now, once we know each other rather well, and the way you know someone well is that the feeling is mutual, like the way that we interact is mutual, that informalities may begin to be introduced. But just because in your eyes I'm a low class person, it doesn't mean that you can just address me however you want to. Because unfortunately for you, I was raised correctly and I will deploy my protocol. And my protocol is, you're a stranger, I will address you formally. I hate it when people say, people don't talk like this in real life, whenever there's a very specific way of speaking, down to the way you pronounce things, the speed of your speech, the words that you're using. I'm like, only a motherfucker who went to school to bullshit does not speak like that, because I remember learning proper vocabulary, and that's what I'm demonstrating right now. You are so basic in that regard. That's literally your skill, that's your ability. You're so used to only bringing something out if you have a script and someone probably ghostwrites it for you, and you only prepare for that, that outside of that you don't know how to function. Unfortunately for you, I'm not like that. So anyway, that's how he starts it off. He just goes like, huh? Just looks at me because I didn't answer his question. And then I just said, were you able to find everything today? I just throw some customer service questions there. He says, yeah, I got everything. And then he goes, how often are you off? And then I ignore the question, and he goes, actually, how many hours do you work here? And I say, no comment. He's like, huh? I say, no comment. He's like, what is that? And I said, no comment. And he goes, you don't want to answer, or you can't answer? I'm like, don't mind me. It's not customary of me to answer personal questions. Boom, left it at that. And he's like, oh, well, I didn't mean to offend you. And I'm like, no issues here. I'm not offended by that one bit. I guess he is just used to being that person with an authoritarian voice kind of thing, that maybe me just being so calm saying no comment, no comment, no comment, no matter how hard he tried, no matter how entitled he felt to my information, or he's used to people just willingly bending to whatever he asks for, because to me he gives me the vibe that he held positions like that, positions of power. Of course, given his wife's situation, how she depends on him for everything, then that is a continuous I have power over this person kind of thing. And I guess that becomes your personality that begins to define you, and you simply forget how to comport yourself when you're out here in public. That is the key, you guys. If you ever struggle with confrontation or being in customer service, remember, you don't have to entertain these clowns. That's all I did. All I did was say, no comment, no comment, no comment. And if you want to, you can share the reason why you're not saying anything, which in my case, the truth is, it's not customary of me to answer personal questions. Boom, just like that. Professionally delivered, calmly delivered. And when he had his little meltdown talking about, I didn't mean to offend you, don't make the mistake of saying, I'm not offended, because if you say that, you may feed them. You run the risk that they'll take that and be like, well, when you reply like that, it's just a simple question. You know, people just love to twist shit. Don't feed them. That's all you have to do. And that's all I did. I'm like, he wants me to engage really bad. He wants me to get into a back and forth with him, but he is not worth it. He's not a parent. He is not a spouse. Therefore, I don't need to feed your shit. I just don't have to. And if I'm going to do that, if I'm going to argue with someone, I want it to be fun. So my managers would be an example of people who are fun to argue with. And on top of that, it helps that they're my friends. It makes it even better because not only do you have the professional chemistry with them, but on top of that, you can become informal with them because you happen to be friends too. And to me, that makes it fun. But this individual does not have that privilege, and he will never have it. So anyways, that whole thing of trying to pressure me and whatnot, like, you ain't gonna get it from me. So in the end, I said, no issues here. And I just continued doing my thing, continued doing my scanning. There was an item I had to ask him if he would like it in a separate bag. It was like a cleaning supply item. I always feel weird when you buy mostly food things, because that's really what they come in there for. They usually just buy vegetables and the occasional snack here and there. And I always feel weird about, especially food that's not in boxes, like produce. I always feel about putting a cleaning supply right with it. But people sometimes do tell me, yeah, you can put it there, it's gonna be okay. And I'm like, okay, your toilet bowl cleaner is gonna go with your apples that are not in a produce bag and stuff like that. So are you sure? In the past, yes, I have had people come to customer service and say that a cleaning supply leaked on them, and I've had to refund that stuff. But and the screw cap, I always give it a little twist to make sure that they're all sealed and stuff. After that, I told him his total. He finally heard me. He gave me the proper amount. He always pays cash and they're always big bills. I perform my little fraud detection audit. They are real, they work. I say out of whatever your amount is and give you your change back. And I said, thank you, have a good one. I maintained my voice, I maintained my composure. Everything about me was the same, as NPC as I could get. But that is the key to not escalating a situation. These people will argue so childishly. Just don't entertain it. And that is why I tell you guys here that I'm as strict as I am, to the point that I don't appear as fun. Because again, that is a job that realistically will get very draining, very tiring, and it has a degree of danger to it. You have to know how to manage people, how to manipulate the interaction to where it won't get out of control. And one of the most important things you can learn to do is don't try to take the matter onto your own hands. You need to make a determination and learn when you have assisted as far as you can realistically go, and when you ought to allow a manager, a supervisor, to step in. Because some of my colleagues, particularly the newer ones, I'm always trying to keep an eye out for them, because naturally you're trying to leave a good impression, you're new to the team, you're trying to be worthy of being here, right? And sometimes you make the mistake of feeling obligated to resolve things on your own. And I want to say the first 6 months to a year, it's perfectly acceptable for you to recur to letting others interfere for you. Even with the 11 years of experience that I have at my job under my belt, I still call my supervisors over to this day. I know what they're gonna tell them, I know what they're gonna do, I know how they're gonna do it, but I also like to do that so that in that team, those new impressionable folks also see that I'm not arrogant. Just because I have 11 years of experience, I'm not going to run everything or anything through a supervisor. Uh-uh. I do that for two reasons. To give those folks the impression that, hey, even I abide by the rules, which I do, and B, out of respect for my managers themselves, understand that I know your role, I know your authority, I wish to deploy you. This is why your face and your presence become known, and directly from me, you see that I respect your authority. And unfortunately, respecting authority is something that I'm seeing on the decline. And I know that I'm doing things right when one of my supervisors, about a year and a half ago, he was telling me to do something specific that day. I said my usual, okay. That's usually how I reply. This particular supervisor was like, thanks for always doing as I say and not. I forget how he said the next part, but basically alluding to not arguing with me, not questioning me. Just I tell you, grab a mop and bucket and mop that up, and you do it, period. The only time I may argue with a supervisor, is if someone already gave me instructions and your instructions are colliding with the instructions I already had. What I do is, so I'm having a conflict. Soup A told me to do this, and now you're telling me to do this. What has more priority? And sometimes, most of the time, they go, oh, whenever you're done with this, then do this. Or, I know, but we have to change plans. We need you to do this instead. And then we'll find some time for you to do the other thing. Okay. Again, I have more experience than those fools who manage me. But just because I do doesn't mean that I'm just going to exert power over them. That's stupid. And then when situations like this happen, in which, say, my situation with this dude would have escalated, then they already know why I do things the way I do. I always tell them, I don't want people touching me, and I'm not answering personal questions. I will always say no comment. Is that the right thing to do? Is that an okay thing to do? Yes? Perfect. Because again, some people are able to make friends out of these people. I have made friends out of those people, but not everyone is going to be suitable for you. And that man is an example of a personality I can just feel in my gut is not good for me. Therefore, why would I attempt to entertain it in a way that's not suitable for me? And I think that people like that, even though this is not my job, sometimes need to be challenged a little bit so that they understand that their world is not the world. It's not everything there is. Either way, I had fun because had this happened to me 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been as comfortable and confident about what I was doing. I, first of all, felt obligated to answer and answer truthfully in all cases. And I felt like I didn't have a right to my privacy, even though I wanted it really bad. And I tried the best I could to not give layers of information, but I did feel the obligation to engage in some type of way. At some point, I started turning it into a game, and I started giving people wrong answers, like, oh, and what school did you go to? Since I actually didn't go to college, I would just invent a name and spit that out, and they'll be like, oh, okay, what did you major in? And then I would try to pick something that's basic that maybe every college would offer. Oh, business admin. I'm just here to get started in the company and then hopefully work my way up. And they would be like, oh, okay, cool. And then hopefully they shut up after that, or they'll say, well, I went to school for fuck. Or you look like you're about my kid's age. This is what my kids, fuck. So at some point I said, you know what's even better than giving fake answers, as entertaining as it is when they buy into my story? Don't answer at all. So now, no comment has become my go-to phrase, and I love it. What was the point of me sharing this? Is just to give you a story of what I consider a customer being a clown, but also hopefully you learn something from me. If you ever feel like you're finding your job overwhelming, a job in which you're working with people and interacting with people, and you feel invaded. Some people don't have a sense of privacy anymore. Some people really don't mind to put all their info out there. I'm like, I really like to guard some of my personal info and stuff like that. Just know that that is a technique you can use. And on top of that, maybe you yourself as a customer out there, maybe you have done these things and you have run into someone who may be like me. Like, when we're in professional mode, we are in professional mode, period. Maybe this can help you hear it directly from one of us, and you can understand why things are the way they are. And I know that we live in a very informal world now, and there's a part of me that's happy about that, especially when it comes to like dress code policies and things. But when it comes to the actual manner of communicating, I do believe that that is still something that should be respected. You don't have to have like the whole dictionary in your brain, but at least learn of some words that are suitable for a professional setting. And then when you out here in the streets, you can talk however the fuck you want. When I was in school, I always said, whenever I'm getting paid to do a job, I will always behave with the proper protocol. I actually like that. Even in school, I feel like I only uttered a cuss word in school amongst my friends, and it was super rare. And it was so rare that when people heard me cussing, they were like, oh, you cuss? Oh, that is shocking. I have never heard you cuss before. That's how you know that you're being consistent. And that's how I had the intention of running the channel. But then I said, if the channel is supposed to be my journal, and I actually cuss in my journal, and my journal actually records how I actually feel, why wouldn't I project that here? Thanks so much for tuning in. Again, this is just a story, and a story that I like to break down and explore and explain why I am the way I am, why I do things the way I do them, and why maybe some of the issues that I see other people expressing about how the job gets to them and I don't relate to it. This is how I do it. This is why I do it. This is how I can say it doesn't affect me. Take it or leave it. It all depends on you. That is my personal preference. My personal preference is to not bring problems home and not cause issues there. I feel like entertaining things tends to be what adds fuel to fires that shouldn't even start in the first place. All right, I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.